As you build out a backyard living space like I've done here over the past 5 years, you start thinking about how to bring people into the space. And that's when you really get into those finishing touches. I'm Kevin Espiritu from Epic Gardening, and we've been working on a pretty killer project out in Maine with the help of Home Depot. Our team's out there putting a huge garden and outdoor living space together. And this is the episode we're really putting that cherry on top with an outdoor kitchen build, a fire pit build, somewhere to really bring people in, enjoy a meal together, warm up by the fire, look at the beautiful work that we've created, and I have to say, it is pretty epic.
This is From Scratch.
All right, the garden's done, the greenhouse is done, pergola is up.
Finally got the fence in, and I'm feeling like it's time for a little bit of relaxation.
Yep.
Today we're finishing up all the major projects on the property and adding some personal touches. We're putting in a fire pit area, herb garden, a berry patch in the main garden, and finally finishing the outdoor kitchen.
Call Jacques, maybe?
All right, it's called Jacques.
The garden hermit. We got everything that's in that list. Is there anything else that you guys can think of that we might need?
Gravel, so far as white gravel goes.
Oh, right. So we have to measure the size of that ring and then calculate the depth. So you'll have to do a surface area calculation for a circle.
Yeah.
And then
I was trying to work through that in my head, but I'm not.
and then you just need to calculate the depth. So anyway,
radius.
so just do that.
Okay. You said just do that.
Cool.
All right.
If not, we'll just send you back tomorrow.
Yep.
Alrighty.
All right. See you in
Adios.
an hour.
If you only had space for one garden bed and you were to ask me what you should grow, I would say hands down an herb bed. Because fresh herbs, A, taste better, B, they will save you a lot of money because if you buy them from the grocery store, you know that that adds up. The first herb that we're putting in is the classic rosemary. So we're gonna get it right up to the soil level, tuck it in, just like that. So as we move our way down the line, I do have some lavender. This is English lavender, which is great for cooking. You can make simple syrups. It's actually oddly delicious in coffee. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these planted in. We'll work our way down to the end where I have some beautiful thyme, and I'll talk a little bit about how watering this whole bed works. So in the center, we are going in with the Greek oregano, another cold hardy plant, just like the rosemary and the lavender. Feels good to get my hands back in the dirt. At the very end of the bed here, we are going to be putting in this beautiful thyme. Let's go ahead and get this out of the bag and we'll pot it right on the end here. Tuck this guy right back in. As I mentioned at the start, all of the herbs in this bed are Mediterranean herbs. And one of the characteristics of that is that they don't need that much water. You don't want to mix them up with other kind of fresh herbs, something like a basil, parsley, a cilantro. All of those require a lot of water. So if I was to put a basil right here and gave it the amount of water it needed, it might actually rot out the other Mediterranean herbs that don't need wet soil. So grouping these guys together not only looks good, but it also makes sense in a watering perspective.
So I want to show you how to frame out a space using containers. In this case, we've put containers on the corner of the deck, which helps sort of envelop the space a little bit. It also protects you from taking a wrong step off a deck. I really love working with containers because it allows you to bring plants into different spaces, like onto the deck here. I chose this great shrub spirea for this space because it brings structure and color. It's also very easy to care for, making it a reliable choice in gardens across a wide variety of growing zones.
The space beside the outdoor kitchen is perfect for a fire pit hangout zone. With a concrete base already in place, we're adding 3/4 inch gravel to build up the surface so that it matches the existing framing. So we laid out our Hampton Bay outdoor furniture, and now we've pretty much got our fire pit area set.
I'm so excited to put together this brio. I've always wanted one at my house, and I get to open it with you. It's super cool because there are accessories that you can add on and cook on top of it. Ooh, this is so pretty. All right, Paul, can you give me a hand?
Where are we going?
Just up,
Up.
up. There we go. Look at that beauty. Ta-da! Well, I'm thinking, because this is going to be our primary fire pit area, having a little stepping stone for when you want to kick up your feet a little. So I've got these, there's one on that side. Okay. What if we did, oh, these are heavy. If you want to bring that one over.
Sure.
We place them kind of like a ring.
Sure.
Gives us a nice little footstool.
Yeah. You don't burn your shoes.
Good point. Think you could lift some rocks for me?
Yeah, definitely. I've dug enough out, so I should put them back in. Return to home.
As an added touch, we are using concrete retaining wall blocks all around the fire pit to create a footrest that won't melt your shoes.
So this whole section right here is the berry patch. Behind me, we're gonna put a row of blueberries, and in front right here, I've got a panel, zip ties, and some posts. We're gonna make a really quick, super easy blackberry trellis. This trellis you can make for any vining plants, but for this purpose, we're gonna do a blackberry patch. I like to use post drivers to help sink the U-post straight and secure. And I'm actually only gonna just zip tie this. Doesn't have to be super permanent. And with blackberries, they are vigorous. So I'm gonna plant one there. I'm gonna plant one on the back side. So this plant can spread out this way, and it's actually gonna give us some coverage. And when you wanna pick the blackberries, you can actually go on either side of the bed, and you're gonna have so many berries you won't know what to do with it.
So these are high bush blueberries, the kind that grow taller, not the kind that are on the ground, those little tiny blueberries. And one of the great things is that we are in Maine and we have acidic soil. Now, if you are planting blueberries and you are in a container, that's where you have to get a little bit more particular and get that right soil mix. But here, we're working with the perfect natural environment. So in terms of spacing, I think you said that these get around 5 feet in size?
3 to 5, height and width.
Okay, perfect. So what we're going to go for, I think in that case, is about 4 feet apart. That way they're going to form a little bit of a hedge.
Oh, Jacques, I think I have a friend for you.
When it comes to getting mature plants out of the pot, the easiest way to do it without harming the plant, oddly enough, is to just beat the sides of the pot. What that does is it loosens up any of the roots that are contacting that side, and then it just slides right out. Once it's out of the pot, we're gonna place it in the ground, and all we wanna do is make sure that we're not below the area that we dug in. The thing is if you go too low, you actually risk the chance of drowning your plant. When it sits below the ground level, all the extra water drains into it and you're gonna get wet feet, soggy roots, and eventually it's gonna rot out and die. So when in doubt, I always like to plant a little bit higher, right above the ground level, especially if you live somewhere that is in a rainy climate like where we're at right now. And once I hill it up, I like to compact that surface soil, and now this plant is having its best chance of making it through, regardless of how wet it is.
All right, so since Jacques and Chia-Ming set up this wonderful berry area, I thought this would be a great incorporation of one of my favorite fruit to grow, and that's gonna be strawberries. So what I did is I found some strawberries that was in a different part of the property and decided to go ahead and incorporate them with this whole berry area. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this strawberry and we're gonna transplant it into our bed that we have right here. Whenever you're trying to transplant strawberries, the most important thing that you wanna take consideration of is going to be your soil. When it comes to soil, strawberries like a nice acidic soil. We're talking about a range between about 5.8 to about 6.5. 6.3 being that ideal spot that we want to be in. Plus, drainage is going to be key. You want something nice, light, and fluffy because strawberries don't really like wet feet. So you want to dig your hole just about 2 to 3 sizes bigger than your root ball. And then from our root ball, we're gonna go ahead and place this down in the soil, but we wanna make sure we don't cover the top of it. This is called the crown area. If you suffocate that crown, then you're essentially gonna kill your plant. And we don't wanna bury it too deep, because if we bury it down too deep, what's gonna happen is all the water, when you start to water your crop, is gonna start pooling right at the top. So let's pull that crown up just a little bit. Now that we got this strawberry in place, we can go ahead and water. And now another key note about strawberries. When you start getting your more drier months, like your deep summer months, one of the tricks that I love to incorporate is by top dressing with some straw. If you top dress with some straw, this will definitely help you lock in a lot of that moisture under your soil. Plus it'll help keep your soil a little bit cooler. And it's really gonna help your strawberries out a lot. But you know, one interesting thing, we have all these berries around us, right? We have blackberry, and then we also have our blueberries. But strawberries, it's actually not even a berry. It's actually called an aggregate fruit. And this is all derived off of the way the seed actually grows on the outside of the flesh, as opposed to the inside. So even though we call strawberry, botanically, not a berry.
I've got to say, the outdoor kitchen has come a long way. We started off with remnants of an old cement foundation next to the barn, and this is where trusting the process is key. From there, we framed out the deck, installed composite deck boards with a picture frame detail to clearly define the kitchen space, and added steps leading down toward what would become the fire pit and garden areas. Next, Z and the team built a custom pergola designed to line up perfectly with the garden pergola, which underwent and passed some very official, very scientific gymnastics safety testing by Pete.
Well, that's just the way. Yeah, but they're 4 good screws. That's just the way I am. I live on the edge, man.
From there, Z framed the counter area with pressure-treated lumber, installed cement board as the base, and sealed the seams with acrylic tape to prep for the tile. The porcelain tiles were cut to size using the wet tile saw, set in place, and finished with cedar trim to match the garden pergola. All that's left is installing the purlins over the pergola rafters so that it ties in with the garden arbor and garden pergola.
Rock and roll.
With the main structure in place, it's time to move into the finishing details. The purlins run perpendicular to the pergola rafters and add both visual continuity and functional shade. From there, attention shifts back to the countertop for final surface prep, grouting the porcelain tile. With the tiles already set, grout is worked into the joints to lock everything together, fill the seams, and create a smooth, cohesive surface. Excess is wiped away as we go, revealing clean lines and a polished, finished look. This step not only pulls the look together, but also protects the countertop for outdoor use, helping it stand up to weather, moisture, and daily wear. With the detail and counter work complete, it's time to bring the kitchen to life. The grill and sink are set into place, turning the structure into a fully functional outdoor cooking space. There are also plenty of cabinet spaces under the counters for easy organization. Around the kitchen, the final layer of gravel is raked smooth, tying the whole area back into the surrounding paths and the garden itself.
In this whiskey barrel style planter, I have a nice selection of very succulent herbs that take a lot more water. You would not want to put any of these, which are parsley and mint, mixed in with those Mediterraneans. But I do have a special warning to all budding gardeners out there, and that is about the mint plant. We all love it, it smells delicious, it's really tasty, but this right here, this is an example of one of its runners, and if this touches anywhere on the soil, that will root and spread. So if you put this in ground, be prepared to have mint in your garden for the rest of your life. One of the interesting things about this grouping is that a mint is a perennial, which means that it will live longer than a year. It should go for at least 3 years before it really starts to give up. But these guys, the parsleys, both the curly and the flat leaf, are what is called the biennial, which means that at most they will last about 2 years. So the cool thing about this pairing here is that you could harvest out this parsley pretty hard and you will be able to pull it out, and at that time, the mint will have spread and started to really fill out that pot. So by the end of this next season, this parsley will be gone and all of this mint will now fill this barrel. It'll look absolutely beautiful, but in the meantime, you could still get 2 harvests out of the same planter.
It's hard to believe, but we managed to pull off every ambitious project we set out to tackle on this property. Now it's just a matter of cleaning up tools and materials and finally sitting back to enjoy the space.
So I'm going to leave a little surprise for Jacques and Kevin to find. I think this is going to be Jacques' resting position for a little while after all these rocks that he's dug. He has his favorite rock and then in a reclined position. So we're gonna tuck it in right here in the center of the garden and let's see if he finds him.
Wow, this whole space looks amazing.
Can't wait to just like enjoy our hard work. Oh,
It feels good.
it feels good to sit. Pull up a chair.
finally time to sit back and relax a little bit.
I think my biggest challenge was dealing with the different levels of everything. So we did have to make quite a bit of adjustments. There was mulch that helped.
Mulch is the trim of the garden.
There we go. I love that. The trim of the garden.
That's the keeper.
When it actually came to setting the orientation of the pergola and the deck and just trying to tie it all together and make it flow and like the whole space as one rather than just separate things, that was a challenge for sure.
What about us? Were we a challenge?
Honestly, that was one of the easier parts. And it made,
really?
Yeah, no, it made the flexibility and adaptation so much easier knowing that everyone was just down to adjust on the fly. With any plans, you have to adapt to what is right in front of you compared to what's on paper. But the vision, from what I can see, came to fruition and I'm really happy with it. I think they'll be really happy with it too, and I can't wait to be a guest at one of their dinner parties.
I gotta say, man, the pergola's lining up perfectly. Yeah. Killer job on that.
Yeah.
Beautiful work.
Also learned a lot from you on this trip.
Oh, yeah.
Gonna be taking some of those skills back home for sure.
Yeah, I've learned a lot
Lots
from you guys
of inspiration.
The most epic moment for me on this whole thing probably came together yesterday when all of it started to really tie together. Those finishing touches, connecting the vision, filling the gravel under the pergola, the pathway, the mulch, the fence, everything looks so good. And it's really, in my head I had this vision the whole time, but you never know until you get there, and it is exceeding my expectations for sure.
Here are a few tips, tricks, and takeaways we picked up. Design spaces to work together. From the start, we wanted multiple pergolas and arbors, so we made sure the designs matched aesthetically, but also within the space. Think about how you'll actually use the space. By adding an herb garden next to the outdoor kitchen, it not only looks great, but will help inspire meals throughout the season. Finish details matter. We've put a lot of weight on the big builds, but all the small plantings, lights, and small design elements are what really gave the space personality and charm. Today's tool of the day is the Ryobi electric auger. For gardeners and landscapers, this thing is a game changer, making quick and clean work of digging holes for plants, posts, and small trees. When I rebuild my fence, I am definitely getting one of these. The area next to the barn definitely needed some love, and it's hard to believe this is the same space as what we started with. Next up, Kevin is coming to finally check out all of our work here in Maine and see how his property inspired so many of the projects in this space.
And don't forget to check out the description below for a full list of linked tools and materials we used for this project.